Joining us now to share his views on how to mitigate the effects of the oil price hikes is the Guzman's running mate, Vice Presidential candidate Walden Bello. He joins us live in our studios. Mr. Bello, thank you so much for joining us. From what we've seen from the national government, their strategy is targeted subsidies and cash doleouts. Is this the way to help our kababayans during these challenging times of rising oil prices?
No, I think it's it's a sort of a response that doesn't fit the emergency character of what's happening. That's the first thing, and then the other thing is it becomes a sort of a complex system where all sorts of criteria are made, and then it also is very, very vulnerable to corruption. Especially in terms of making sure that those subsidies, in fact, reach, the so-called targeted groups.
And it usually takes a longer period of time to be able to disperse these cash doleouts to the people who really need them, which is the marginalized part of our society.
Yes, definitely. Very, very long. And in fact, as we saw with the doleouts during the COVID period, significant numbers are not reached at all, because of lack of data or complex reporting systems. So it's really substituting a really complex, corruption-prone system for measures which could readily have an impact, like the freezing the
fuel excise
taxes.
tax, and that would have an immediate impact,
definitely,
not only on a targeted part of the population, but across all sectors of society.
Yes.
Mr. Bello.
Yes, definitely across, an immediate impact, for that matter. The other thing too is that beyond, the freezing the excise tax, as well as the VAT on petroleum, we need to have some other measures. For instance, it would be very important at this point to repeal the oil deregulation law, which has prevented government from having an active role in terms of in terms of dealing with prices. It would be very important at this point in time to be able to impose price controls. You could have triggers, like 5-6% rise in terms of the cost of living every month. That could trigger price controls. Hindi lang suggested retail prices, real price controls, which could really have a major impact in terms of our consumers. So it's a set of measures, both short-term, medium-term, and long-term. That's really what we need to put at this point.
Well, you've seen some of the allies of President Duterte calling for a special session of Congress to basically temporarily suspend this fuel excise tax, maybe even the value-added tax, and maybe look deeper into this oil deregulation law.
Yes.
But it looks like President Duterte will not budge, because if this happens, this could really, make a lot of changes into these excise taxes.
Well, the problem here is President Duterte has given complete control of the economy to Carlos Dominguez, the finance secretary. And, from the very beginning, President Duterte said he didn't understand economics, so Carlos, take care of it. That is terrible, So basically, we are having, one person in the finance, the finance secretary having full control of economic policy, and President Duterte practically saying 100% to everything he recommends. So, this is not a democratic system. And when you have a president basically say, I don't understand economics and I'll give it to my finance secretary, this creates a lot of problems in terms of accountability, And moreover, I think what happens is Dominguez is very, very much tuned in and very much listens to the International Monetary Fund and other international agencies that are keeping close watch on the Philippines if it moves away from the guidelines that they have.
But the Finance Secretary, Mr. Bello, has said that if we suspend the fuel excise tax or the VAT or the oil deregulation law, this will be a lot of lost revenues for the government to the tune of more than 105 billion pesos, which has already been allocated to the different sectors of society until the end of 2022.
Well, I think that a lot of those estimates are really sleight of the hand, sort of estimates. They exaggerate the loss of revenue. But even more important is that much more important is getting the economy moving, because there's consumer demand that energizes the economy. And that sort of activity and the value it creates is much more than what is lost in terms of revenue. And then there are other ways that we can in fact deal with this problem. Like, for instance, we freeze debt payments to some of our external creditors. So we allocate a lot of this presidential related funds, to more important aspects of governing. For instance, the NTF-LCAC. We don't need that. That could be allocated to more important agencies.
All right. Focusing now on the Commission on Elections vice presidential debate this coming Sunday.
Yes.
9 out of 10 of the VP candidates will be only attending. And Sara Duterte says it's final. She will not be joining any of the debates ahead of Election Day, just like what she did with the CNN Philippines VP debate. She did not attend. So what does this make now of the debate when you have the front-running VP debate in surveys not attending yet again?
Well, this is really, really a problem because the people don't know what she stands for. The people don't know her program. The people don't know her record. And that can only really come out in an active give and take in a debate. For instance, I have investigated her record in managing Davao City, and there's a lot of problems.
And you just came from Davao City?
Yeah, and I just came from Davao City, where we looked into major problems, the coastal road, you name it, drug center and everything else. Now, if Sara Duterte can't manage a city like Davao, how would you expect her to manage a complex economy? So, I mean, she should show up in this debate so that people really know what she stands for and whether they should choose her.
And a final question, Mr. Bello, what do you think of the surveys? Many of the candidates are complaining. They feel that they have a lot of support on the ground, but it is not showing up in the surveys. Some of them even getting 0% in some of the provinces.
Well, yes, I think that it is certainly important for people to question surveys, because surveys have a way of conditioning people, and probably it is best if, in the months leading to an election, we decide to freeze surveys, maybe in the final 2 months of before the elections. It would be good because surveys do have a way of conditioning people, saying that there is now a front runner. And in that way, surveys begin to create situations rather than reflect situations, or create voters' preferences instead of reflecting voters' preferences.
So freeze these surveys
a few weeks.
A few weeks before
Yes.
Election Day on May 9th.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your insights and for joining us on The Final Word, Vice Presidential Candidate Walden Bello.
Thank you.